Moving on, today is World Autism Awareness Day. Waleed Ali has this special report about a centre that's giving hope to many families.
Mother dog said, quack, 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 quack.
It's a simple song, but its effect on 3-year-old Kit Potgieter Strawn has been life-changing.
The change was just miraculous. He seems to have realised that other people are something of value and that there's actually a reason to communicate with them.
Kit has autism. Until 6 weeks ago, he could barely speak, trapped in an isolated world with little interaction with his family.
My daughter's 6. When they were little, you know, she wanted to hug him, he'd always push her away and, you know, she'd try and talk to him and he'd just walk off.
But Kit's found his voice with help from therapists at Irabina Childhood Autism Services in Melbourne.
We've taken a little boy that's been non-verbal to be able to speak. I rang the other day and he said hello. It was absolutely fantastic, and I know that Ellie, his mum, is really getting so much joy from that.
Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental condition that affects the way that children behave and relate to other people. In Australia, 1 in 62 children are diagnosed with the disorder. Most of them are boys. But despite decades of public discussion, many families still feel shame around the condition.
You would think the stigma would have disappeared, but I think, you know, we have friends whose kids have autism. They haven't told their grandparents. They haven't told their parents. At
Irabina, children learn to communicate better through play.
Part of what we do is teach the parents how to teach the children to interact like that.
2-year-old Tiali has always struggled to eat different kinds of food. For Mum Dione, it's meant mealtimes are extremely difficult.
I've had to restrain her. Once she's dislocated her shoulder because she was so upset. It's horrible, really.
But today, Tiali is a different little girl. By playing with food, she's learnt to become more comfortable with eating.
We are better equipped to understand what's going on and so we can put things in place at home. She's just a lot happier. She's definitely a happy little girl.
As for Kit, he's become closer to his family and now he even plays with his sister.
One day he just took her hand and he said, "Come, Lila," and he took her off somewhere to play and she just, you know, she just melted. She thought that was the best thing ever.
Waleed Ali's son Zaid was diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum in 2011 and we spoke to him earlier today. We started by asking him about his connection to the school.
We actually sent Zaid, my son, to Irabina for his last year before he started school, and it was a fantastic experience for him. The progress that he made, the strides that he made, not just with intellectually, but just as a human being and socially, were incredible. And it's been a huge moment in our lives that we had that opportunity.
Waleed, what are some of the big misconceptions people have of autism?
Probably the biggest one is that people just assume that people with autism, it's like they've got superpowers or something, or that they're amazing musicians or whatever. And that's not the truth. It's not the reality. There are people like that, but they're a very small minority. And so the best way to remember it is, if you know one person with autism, then you know one person with autism. That's it. Because the experiences are so different. They present so differently. Not all of them refuse to make eye contact. Not all of them have trouble socialising or are really cold or don't want to hug you. Some do, some don't. It's a much more complex condition than that.
Waleed, what are some of the challenges of having a child with autism, and what are some of the amazing things about having a child with autism?
Look, I think probably the biggest challenge is in some ways dealing with the reactions of other people, feeling that they need to pity you. You don't. It's not that way. Sometimes it's people blaming you in some way for the fact that your child happens to be autistic. You know, it's like people think that you did something. They'll come up with some theory as to what it is that causes autism. Immunisation's a popular one, even though that's total rubbish. That's what seems to go on, and it's really difficult from that perspective. And then being a parent, I think what's hard about it is that you never really know what the future holds. But on the upside, it is an amazing experience, because what you are looking at is a kid who looks at the world differently and thinks about the world differently. And when you finally unlock how it is that their brain works, there is something utterly magic about that.
I've met Zaid, and my son and Zaid have played together and they get along like a house on fire. But how does he understand his autism?
Well, he doesn't yet. I mean, he's at a stage, I think, where he's too young for that really to be something that registers with him. He knows who he is, he knows who his friends are, he knows what he likes, and he knows that, you know, what they like. And really that's all that matters at this stage, is that he understands who he is and he has self-esteem, you know, that he has a confidence about who he is, and he loves life. And right now he's an incredibly happy little man, and that's one of the reasons that we love him so much.
Well, it feels like we are rapidly understanding more and more about the autism spectrum. There was news on Friday about possible testing for autism. Talk us through that and what that could mean.
This is an incredible study. So what they did was they managed to examine post-mortem brains of kids who were autistic. And by doing that, what they've figured out is it's pretty likely, they think, that autism occurs in pregnancy. So in the, probably in the second trimester of pregnancy. And this is really significant because it points the way to early detection. It points the way to understanding that this is not something that the environment just produces. So we're coming to understand that better.
But Waleed, early detection, the schools like Zaid goes to, they're not cheap. I mean, how do we help more families and how do we build more of these schools so that more families can access them?
This is a massive issue. We were really lucky to be able to access some of these services. They're not cheap, you're right. There is government funding available, but not everyone can get it and you can run out. And I mean, ultimately, and I hate to be the 1 millionth person today to say this, but it needs more money, it needs more funding. It's the only way you make these services available.
Well, great to chat to you tonight, Waleed. Great message. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
It is time now for a break. We'll be back in a moment.